He left her at the altar, but God brought him back when the time was right. She stood there in white, trembling hands, heart full of dreams, and a church full of whispers. But as the music played and the doors stayed closed, everyone realized the groom wasn't coming. That day, Jackie's world shattered. The man she loved, the one who promised forever, disappeared without a word. And in the silence that followed, she discovered something else. She was carrying his child. Years passed. The white dress was packed away, replaced by a simple life and a little boy with his father's eyes. Jackie built her strength in faith, learning that when life breaks you, God can rebuild you in ways you never imagined. But one quiet afternoon, everything changed. A familiar name echoed on the radio. Ryan Cooper, the country star the whole world adored, and the man who once left her at the altar. When he returned to Willow Creek, he wasn't just coming back for a funeral. He was walking straight into the story God had been rewriting all along, because sometimes love isn't lost. It's just waiting for God's perfect timing. Stay until the end of this story, because what happens when faith meets forgiveness will leave you speechless. The morning sun bathed Willow Creek in golden light, and the small church bells rang with joy. Everyone in town came dressed in their best clothes, because today Jackie Miller was marrying Ryan Cooper, the boy who once sang on the porch under the stars. Her white dress glimmered softly, and her smile carried the quiet certainty of a woman who had waited her whole life for this moment. Inside the church, the scent of lilies filled the air. Jackie's mother wiped tears from her eyes as the organ began to play. The crowd stood, turning toward the back doors. But as seconds stretched into minutes, whispers began to ripple through the pews. The music played again. Still, no one walked down that aisle. Her heart began to pound in a rhythm of disbelief and fear. "He's just late," she whispered to herself, forcing a smile. But deep down, something inside her cracked. The best man stepped outside to check, then returned with eyes that said everything. Ryan was gone. No call, no note. Just gone. The bouquet trembled in her hands. The church that once felt like heaven suddenly felt like a tomb. Jackie's breath caught in her throat as people began to lower their heads, avoiding her gaze. The sound of her own heartbeat drowned out the organ's final notes. Hope was replaced by silence. She stepped outside, her veil brushing against the wind. The sky had turned gray, clouds moving in as if the heavens themselves were mourning with her. Tears blurred her vision, and for the first time, she wondered if love could ever truly be real, or if it was just another story people told to survive the ache of loneliness. That night, Jackie sat by her window, staring at the empty road that should have led him home. The ring still on her finger glistened beneath the moonlight, mocking the promise it once carried. She whispered his name, Ryan, but only the crickets answered. Her world had gone silent. Days turned into weeks. The townspeople moved on, but the whispers never stopped. Poor Jackie. She didn't deserve that. How could he leave? Each word pierced deeper than the last, but she kept walking with her head high, holding on to what little faith she had left, even when her heart screamed for answers. It was in the middle of that silence that she felt the first sign of life again, not in her heart, but beneath it. Sitting alone on the porch, she placed a trembling hand over her stomach and gasped. She was carrying a piece of him, of their love, of what was supposed to be forever. Fear came first, then tears, then a strange, quiet peace. She knew the road ahead would be hard, but something within her refused to break. "You'll never be alone," she whispered to the tiny heartbeat inside her. "We'll make it. God will make a way." And for the first time since that day, she smiled. Jackie found work at the local music school, teaching children how to play the piano and sing hymns. Her students became her refuge, their laughter filling the space where pain used to live. Each chord she played was a prayer, each melody a step closer to healing. Nights were still lonely. Sometimes she'd hear a song on the radio that reminded her of Ryan's voice, rich, warm, full of dreams. She'd turn it off before the ache could swallow her, but deep down a part of her still prayed for him even when she didn't want to. The months passed and her belly grew. The townsfolk began to soften. They brought her pies, flowers, and whispered blessings instead of gossip. They saw something holy in her strength, a light that pain couldn't dim. Jackie had become a living testimony of grace. When the contractions came, the rain was falling hard. Alone in her small farmhouse, she cried out not just from pain but from surrender. "Lord, I can't do this without you." And as lightning flashed through the window, she felt peace, not from the storm outside, but from the one who calmed the storm within. A baby's cry echoed through the night. She wrapped him in a soft blanket and looked into eyes that mirrored Ryan's, deep hazel, full of wonder. "Benjamin," she whispered, "because even in my sorrow, God remembered me." Her tears fell on his forehead like blessings. From that night on, Jackie's life revolved around Ben. She learned to find joy in the little things, his laughter, his songs, his tiny hands clapping to Sunday hymns. Each day she saw God's mercy in his smile. Still, there were moments when the memories crept in. When she'd sit on the porch at sunset, her heart would ache at the thought of what could have been. She'd whisper into the wind, "Where are you, Ryan?" And though no voice answered, she knew heaven was listening. Years passed like pages turning quietly in the book of her life. Jackie became known not for her heartbreak but for her strength. Her faith grew roots, not in perfection but in pain transformed by grace. And in that faith she found a new kind of love, the love of God that never abandons. Sometimes at night she'd hear Ben humming softly, the same tune Ryan used to play on his guitar. It stopped her heart every time. She'd stand in the doorway watching her little boy and whisper a prayer. "Lord, if it's your will, let his father find you before he finds us." She didn't know that miles away. Ryan carried a worn piece of paper in his wallet, the note she had left on the church bench. "If you ever lose your way, let God lead you home." He read it before every concert, every lonely night on the road, holding on to it like oxygen. And so, while Jackie learned to live without him, Ryan learned to survive without her. Both broken, both searching, both unaware that the author of their story was quietly preparing the chapter that would bring them face to face again, not by chance, but by grace. 6 years had passed since that stormy night, and the farmhouse now echoed with laughter instead of silence. Jackie woke up to the sound of tiny footsteps running across the wooden floor. "Mama, the rooster's late again," Ben shouted, his hair messy and eyes bright like morning light. Every day with him was a reminder that God could turn pain into purpose. She smiled, pulling on her sweater as she watched him chase a butterfly near the porch. "You're faster than any rooster I know," she said, her heart swelling with pride. There was something about the way he grinned, that same half-smile Ryan used to wear before he sang a song. It was both beautiful and bittersweet. Breakfast was simple and pancakes, honey, and a prayer. Jackie bowed her head and Ben followed, his small hands clasped tightly. "Thank you, Jesus, for this food and for making Mama smile again." The innocence of his words made tears fill her eyes. Children had a way of speaking straight to heaven. After breakfast, Jackie walked Ben to the old church school. The sound of the bell rang through the cool air. Some parents still whispered about the past, but most had learned to respect the quiet grace she carried. She was no longer the girl left at the altar. She was a woman redeemed by resilience. Inside the classroom, she taught children hymns and simple piano chords. Ben would sit in the front row, his feet barely touching the ground, humming along to every note. Music had become their language, a bridge between what was lost and what still lived on. One afternoon after class, Pastor Thomas approached her with a gentle smile. "Jackie, you've turned sorrow into song. The way you teach, it's healing more than just these kids." She looked down, humbled. "It's not me, Pastor. It's him. Every note I play is a prayer he answers in his own way." Ben was growing fast, too fast. He asked questions that cut deeper than she expected. "Mama, where's my dad?" "All my friends have one." Jackie froze for a moment, then smiled softly. "Your dad is someone who loved music just like you. But God is your father too, and he never leaves." Her words were true, even if her heart still trembled when she said them. That night, while Ben slept, Jackie opened an old wooden box under her bed. Inside were memories she tried to bury, their wedding invitation, a photograph of them laughing under the willow tree, and the letter she had written the night he left but never sent. "You didn't just take my future," she whispered, "you took my melody." Still, she couldn't hate him. Every time she looked into Ben's eyes, forgiveness knocked softly on the door of her heart. Maybe one day she'd open it fully. Maybe one day she'd understand why God allowed that heartbreak. For now, she just held her son a little tighter and whispered, "We're okay." Sundays were her favorite. She and Ben sat in the front pew, singing louder than anyone else. His little voice always rose above the crowd, pure and full of joy. "Mom, do you think Jesus likes my singing?" he asked once. "I think he loves it," she said. "He probably stops heaven just to listen." Outside church, life was simple. They'd walk home past fields of wheat swaying like gold. Sometimes she'd see couples holding hands and feel that ache again. But it no longer broke her. It reminded her that love, even when lost, still had the power to teach. One evening, Ben found an old guitar in the attic. "Can I try?" he asked, his eyes sparkling. The first notes were clumsy but familiar. Jackie's heart skipped a beat. It was Ryan's guitar, left behind when he vanished. She almost told Ben to stop, but then she heard the laughter in his voice and couldn't. He practiced every day after that, strumming songs he made up on the spot. His favorite was one he called "When Heaven Listens." Sometimes Jackie would stand by the doorway watching him, feeling tears and pride mingle like sunlight and rain. That guitar was no longer a symbol of loss, it was legacy. At night, she'd kneel beside his bed and pray, "Lord, protect my boy, guide his heart, and if the man who gave him these eyes is still out there, let your will be done." It was a prayer she repeated countless times, never knowing how close God was to answering it. Seasons changed. The wheat turned to gold. The trees shed their leaves, and life carried on quietly in Willow Creek. But sometimes when the radio played a country song, Jackie would freeze. The voice sounded hauntingly familiar. She'd turn it off before the memories flooded back. One day, while driving Ben to school, she heard that voice again. The announcer said, "That was Ryan Cooper, the country sensation with another #1 hit." Jackie's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Her breath caught. She turned off the radio, pretending it didn't shake her. But it did, deeply. That night she couldn't sleep. She walked to the porch, the moon high and silent. "Lord," she whispered, "why now? Why does his name still find me?" She didn't know that across the country Ryan had been asking the same question, holding her note, whispering her name into the darkness. Meanwhile, Ben kept humming the same tune every night before bed, the same one Ryan wrote years ago. Jackie never told him where it came from. But maybe, she thought, music remembers what the heart forgets. Maybe God uses songs to stitch broken souls together, even from miles away. A storm rolled in that week, rain tapping against the windows as thunder echoed over the hills. Ben curled up beside her on the couch. "Mama," he whispered, "do you think my dad's out there somewhere?" Jackie hesitated, then smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, and when the time's right, God will bring him home." She didn't know how prophetic those words were, because at that very moment, miles away, Ryan was packing his bags, heading back to Willow Creek for the funeral of his best friend. He didn't plan on seeing her. He didn't plan on staying, but heaven already had other plans. The tour had ended, but the applause never filled the emptiness inside him. Ryan Cooper sat alone in his Nashville hotel room, staring at the ceiling as the city lights flickered beyond the window. Fame had given him everything he once dreamed of, except peace. The note she'd written all those years ago was still in his wallet, folded and worn. "If you ever lose your way, let God lead you home." When the call came about his best friend Mark, Ryan froze. A car accident. Gone instantly. The words felt unreal. Mark had been the only one who knew the truth about that day. The panic, the manipulation, the fear that drove him away from Jackie. And now, with Mark gone, the past came roaring back like thunder. He canceled his next shows and packed a single bag. The driver asked, "Back to Willow Creek, sir?" Ryan hesitated before answering, "Yeah, back home." The words felt foreign on his tongue, heavy with memories he had tried to bury under sold-out arenas and stage lights. The road stretched endlessly before him. Golden fields, empty diners, forgotten songs. Every mile brought him closer to the one place his fame couldn't touch. He lowered the window and let the wind hit his face. It smelled like autumn and regret. He hadn't been back in 6 years, but the ache never left. As he crossed the wooden bridge into Willow Creek, everything felt smaller. The old gas station, the church steeple in the distance, the diner where he and Jackie had spent countless hours dreaming about the future. Time hadn't erased anything. It had only deepened the memories carved into the town's quiet rhythm. Ryan parked outside the church, his heart pounding. Mark's funeral was simple, humble, just like him. Familiar faces turned as Ryan entered, whispers spreading through the crowd. The local boy who made it big had come home. But beneath the admiration he saw it. Judgment, curiosity, pity. He deserved all of it. When the pastor spoke, Ryan barely heard the words. His mind wandered to the pew where Jackie used to sit, hands clasped, eyes closed in worship. The ghost of her presence lingered in the air, soft but undeniable. He could almost hear her voice singing one of his old songs, and before the silence. After the service, people approached him offering condolences and congratulations. "We're proud of you, Ryan. Never forgot your voice." But one older woman said what no one else dared. "You've got talent, son. But talent don't heal the heart." He nodded quietly, unable to respond. Later he walked to the cemetery alone. The wind rustled through the trees as he stood before Mark's grave. "You always told me I'd regret it," he whispered. "You were right." He knelt, pressing a hand to the cold stone. "I lost her, Mark. I lost everything that mattered." His voice cracked. In the distance, the church bells rang, echoing like forgiveness he didn't yet believe he deserved. He pulled out the note again, smoothing its edges. The ink was faded, but the message still burned bright. "Let God lead you home. Maybe I'm finally listening," he murmured, eyes wet with tears. That evening, Ryan drove aimlessly through the town. He passed the old barn where he used to rehearse, the tree where he carved their initials, and the little school where Jackie once taught music. Every place whispered her name. Every melody that came to mind ended with her face. He parked near the river, the one they used to visit after church on Sundays. Sitting on the hood of his truck, he looked at the sky. "God, if you're real, if you still see me, help me fix what I broke." It was the first prayer he'd spoken in years, raw, trembling, and honest. Meanwhile, in her farmhouse miles away, Jackie looked out her window, sensing a strange stirring in her heart. She couldn't explain it, just an uneasiness like something sacred was shifting in the air. Ben slept peacefully, unaware that the man from his bedtime prayers was already in the same town. Ryan checked into the small inn near Main Street. The owner, Mrs. Green, recognized him instantly. "You've changed," she said kindly. "Less sparkle in your eyes, more truth maybe." He smiled faintly. "Guess life does that," she nodded. "Or maybe God does." The next morning he visited the diner. The smell of coffee and fried eggs brought memories rushing back. He sat at the counter, glancing at the corner booth. Their booth. He could almost see her there, laughing, brushing hair from her face. For a moment he closed his eyes and saw her as if time had never passed. Outside, the town's bulletin board caught his eye. There was a flyer for the Willow Creek Fall Festival, local performances, church choirs, and children's music recitals. And there, near the bottom, Jackie Miller, children's choir director. His chest tightened. After all these years, she was still here. That night, he drove to the old barn again. Dust floated in the air as he stepped inside. His guitar still hung on the wall where he'd left it years ago, untouched but not forgotten. He strummed a few chords and his voice cracked. "I've sung to millions," he whispered, but she was the only audience that ever mattered. He stayed there until sunrise, praying, crying, and singing softly to the silence. "If I ever see her again," he said aloud, "I'll tell her everything. No excuses, no stage lights, just truth." But deep down, fear gripped him. What if it was too late? What if forgiveness wasn't waiting? The next day, as he walked down Main Street, he heard a sound that made him stop. A familiar piano melody drifting from the open doors of the church. Children's voices followed, innocent and pure. He knew that song. It was the one they had written together. His breath caught. She was inside. Ryan stood at the doorway, frozen. His world went silent except for her voice. Soft, steady, filled with light. Jackie was there, leading the children's choir, her hair tied back, her smile calm. Time seemed to stop. 6 years vanished in an instant, and as she turned, their eyes met. The past had just walked into the present. Jackie's voice carried softly through the church, rising with the children's as sunlight filtered through the stained glass. Each note shimmered like forgiveness, though she didn't yet know for whom it was meant. As she guided the final chorus, her heart felt unusually heavy, a strange flutter, as if someone unseen was standing close. The doors creaked open behind her, letting in a stream of golden light. She didn't turn, Her focus stayed on the children, but when the music ended and silence filled the room, she felt it, a presence she hadn't felt in years. Familiar, painful, holy in the most broken way. Her hand trembled as she dismissed the class. "Beautiful job, everyone. Remember to sing from the heart next Sunday." The children giggled and scattered, running past the tall man near the doorway. Jackie didn't look up, not yet. But her pulse raced like thunder in her chest. Ryan stood frozen, his hat in hand, watching the scene as if afraid to breathe. The sound of her voice had pulled every memory from the corners of his soul. She looked older, stronger, and more radiant than he remembered. The sight of her brought both peace and punishment. When the last child left, silence wrapped around them. Jackie finally turned. Their eyes met across the empty pews, hazel to hazel, heart to heart. For a moment, time dissolved. The same church that once held her heartbreak now held the man who caused it. She drew in a shaky breath. Ryan. His name slipped from her lips like a prayer she didn't mean to say. He swallowed hard, his voice quiet. "Hi, Jackie." The words were simple, but the years of silence behind them screamed louder than any greeting ever could. She stepped back, instinctively clutching her necklace. "What are you doing here?" Her tone was calm, but her heart was chaos. He glanced down. "Mark's funeral brought me home." The mention of his friend softened her just a little. "I heard. I'm sorry." It was the only thing she could offer without falling apart. Ryan nodded. He was like a brother. "I couldn't stay away." His eyes searched hers for forgiveness, but she avoided them. "You've done well for yourself," she said, motioning vaguely. "The world loves you." "And yet," he whispered, "I'd trade every stage for one more song with you." The words hit her like wind against a flame. For a second, her walls almost cracked. Then she turned toward the piano. "You should go. The past doesn't belong here anymore." Ryan hesitated, then walked closer, his boots echoing softly on the wooden floor. Maybe the past never left. Jackie's hand hovered over the keys, her reflection trembling in the glossy surface. "You disappeared without a word," she said, voice breaking. "Do you have any idea what that did to me?" Ryan's throat tightened. "I do now," he whispered. "Every song I wrote since then was about that day." Tears welled in her eyes. "You can't just walk back into this town and expect forgiveness to wait for you." "I don't expect anything," he replied quietly. "I just needed to see if you were real, if grace was still possible." The raw honesty in his voice disarmed her for a moment. The air between them grew heavy, years of unsaid words pressing down. Jackie finally looked at him fully, seeing the man behind the fame. His eyes were tired but sincere. "You still carry guilt," she said softly. "More than you know." "Maybe," he answered, "but God's been carrying me through it." Her brows furrowed slightly. "You found faith?" "Or it found me," he said, glancing toward the cross behind her. "Sometimes God breaks you in front of the whole world so you'll finally kneel." She didn't respond, but her heart recognized truth when it heard it. Just then, the small door by the hallway opened. "Mama!" Ben's voice echoed through the church. Ryan froze. The boy ran in laughing, holding a paper drawing. Jackie turned pale. "Ben, sweetheart?" But before she could finish, Ryan knelt instinctively, smiling. "Hey there, little man." Ben tilted his head, studying him. "You look familiar," he said innocently. Ryan chuckled softly. "Maybe you've seen me on TV." "Or maybe I saw you in my dreams," the boy replied, his words pure and haunting. Jackie's heart skipped a beat. The resemblance between them was undeniable. Ryan glanced at Jackie, eyes full of unspoken questions. "He's beautiful," he said gently. "He has your eyes." Jackie's lips trembled. "You should go, Ryan." "Jackie," he whispered, stepping closer. "Please, just tell me—" "Not here," she cut him off, voice trembling. "Not like this." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I'll leave." As he turned toward the door, Ben's voice called out again. "Are you coming to the festival tomorrow? Mama's choir is singing." Ryan looked back, surprised. "Maybe I will." Jackie's eyes widened, half fear, half something she couldn't name. When the church doors closed behind him, Jackie sank onto the nearest pew. Her hand shook. The scent of his cologne lingered, a ghost from another life. "Lord," she whispered, "why now? Why bring him back when I've finally found peace?" The only answer was the echo of the piano key she'd accidentally pressed. Outside, Ryan stood in the rain staring at the church steeple. He'd come home for a funeral but had stumbled into resurrection. He didn't know if she'd ever forgive him, but something told him this wasn't over. "If grace can find me once," he murmured, "maybe it can find me again." That night, as thunder rolled over Willow Creek, both lay awake, miles apart yet closer than ever. She prayed for strength to face the past. He prayed for courage to ask forgiveness. And somewhere between those prayers, heaven whispered softly, "The story isn't finished yet." The next morning, Willow Creek buzzed with excitement. The annual fall festival was all anyone could talk about. Music, food, families filling the square. Jackie dressed Ben in his best flannel shirt, straightening his collar with trembling hands. She wasn't ready to see Ryan again, but deep down she knew she would. Ben hummed while tying his shoes. "Mama, can I sing the new song I made?" Jackie smiled weakly. "Maybe next year, sweetheart." "But this one's special," he said proudly. "It came to me in a dream, just like the man who sang it." Her heart skipped a beat, but she didn't ask. Some questions hurt too much to voice. At the edge of town, Ryan tuned his guitar in his truck, the morning air crisp with the smell of cinnamon and hay. He hadn't planned to perform, not this time. He only wanted to listen, to feel something real again. But as he strummed a quiet melody, the same tune Ben had written echoed softly through his mind. The festival began with laughter and chatter. Booths lined the streets, the air thick with popcorn and pumpkin spice. When Jackie arrived with her choir, whispers followed her. People noticed the tension when Ryan appeared, standing by the stage. She felt every gaze but kept her eyes on her students. Ryan spotted Ben first. The boy's eyes sparkled with a light he couldn't explain. He was drawn to him instantly, the same way he'd once been drawn to music itself. When Ben waved, Ryan waved back. "Hey, kid," he said softly. "You here to steal the show?" Ben giggled. "Only if you help me sing." Jackie froze. "Ben!" she called, walking quickly toward them. "Don't bother Mr. Cooper." But Ryan smiled. "He's not bothering me." There was warmth in his voice. "I'm the kind that broke walls instead of building them." Jackie's defenses trembled, but she held her ground. "We should go. The choir's starting soon." As the music began, Ryan stood in the crowd watching her lead the children. Her voice, once fragile, now carried strength that came from survival. Every lyric about grace and redemption hit him like a confession. He realized the song wasn't just for the audience, it was for both of them. After the performance, Ben ran toward the small stage again, dragging Jackie with him. "Mama, can we play that song I made?" She hesitated. "Now's not the time, please. Mr. Cooper can play the guitar part." The crowd chuckled. Ryan looked at her, silently asking for permission. Against her better judgment, she nodded. Ryan knelt beside Ben, whispering, "Show me the chords." The boy began to hum, and Ryan followed, slowly, gently, as if rediscovering a piece of himself. The notes fit perfectly, as though they'd been written years ago for this very moment. Jackie's heart ached as she listened. When the song ended, the crowd erupted in applause. Ben beamed, bowing dramatically. Ryan laughed, a genuine, unguarded laugh that reached his eyes for the first time in years. Jackie clapped too, but her smile faltered when she noticed something undeniable. They looked exactly alike under the sunlight. After the crowd dispersed, Jackie tried to leave quietly, but Ryan caught up to her. "Jackie, please," he said. "I need to know that boy. Is he—" She cut him off, her voice trembling. "Don't, Ryan. I have the right to ask. And I have the right to protect him," she replied sharply. "He's my son." The words hung heavy in the air. Ryan's face went pale. "Your son?" His voice broke. "Jackie, You left," she whispered. "You made your choice." He shook his head, eyes filling. "No, I was scared. They told me leaving would help your future, that I was just holding you back. I was young and stupid, but I never stopped loving you." Jackie's breath caught. "You don't get to rewrite the past." "I'm not," he said softly. "I'm asking for a chance to make it right." The vulnerability in his voice cracked her armor. "He doesn't know," she whispered. "Ben doesn't know who you are." Ryan swallowed hard. "Then maybe it's time he does." She turned away, tears forming. "He's just a boy, Ryan. Don't confuse his world to fix your own guilt." "It's not guilt," he said firmly. "It's love. And maybe this time I won't run from it. She wanted to believe him, but pain doesn't fade as quickly as hope returns. That night, Ryan walked along the quiet streets of Willow Creek, the festival lights glowing behind him. He stopped by the old barn again, strumming his guitar in the moonlight. The song Ben had written echoed through his mind, and for the first time he prayed for guidance instead of control. Meanwhile, Jackie sat by the window watching Ben sleep. His tiny hand clutched the paper where he'd drawn himself and the nice man with the guitar. Her heart twisted. "Lord," she whispered, "I don't know what you're doing, but please, protect us both from reopening wounds that haven't healed." The next morning, Ryan returned to the church. He didn't see Jackie, only Pastor Thomas cleaning the steps. "Heard you're back," the pastor said kindly. "The town's been waiting for this moment." Ryan sighed, not sure they're ready for the truth. "Truth isn't about readiness," the pastor replied. "It's about timing, God's timing." That afternoon, Ben ran into Ryan again at the bakery. "Hey, Mr. Cooper," he called. Ryan grinned. "Hey, little man. You practicing that song?" "Yep. Mama says music is a gift." Ryan smiled sadly. "She's right. And so are you." He wanted to tell him everything, but not yet. The moment had to be right. When Jackie found them together, she froze for a heartbeat. But then she saw something she couldn't unsee. Ben's laughter mirrored Ryan's exactly. The same spark, the same warmth. She didn't stop them. For the first time, she let them talk freely, and something inside her began to soften. That night, Ryan stood on his porch, guitar in hand, eyes on the stars. He whispered, "Lord, I've spent years running from what you meant for me to face. But if she'll let me, I'll stay. Not as a singer, not as a man chasing fame, but as a father, and maybe someday as the man who'll earn her forgiveness." The skies over Willow Creek turned gray that afternoon, thick clouds rolling over the fields like unspoken words. Jackie stood at the church door, gripping the edge of her shawl as wind tugged at her hair. She felt something coming, not a storm of rain, but of truth. In her heart, she knew there would be no peace until everything was finally spoken. Ryan sat inside the barn, staring at the old guitar in his lap. The melody he'd written the night before still lingered in the air, raw, unfinished, aching. Every note carried her name. "God," he whispered, "I broke her, but if you can rebuild me, maybe you can rebuild us." His prayer was trembling, but real. That evening, rain began to fall, steady, relentless. Jackie lit a candle in the farmhouse, the flickering light casting shadows on the walls. Ben was asleep, his soft breathing steady. She looked out the window and saw headlights approaching through the mist. Her chest tightened. She knew who it was before he even knocked. When she opened the door, the sound of rain filled the silence between them. Ryan stood there, soaked, his eyes searching hers. "I had to come," he said softly. "We can't keep living with ghosts." Jackie's voice was calm but guarded. Some ghosts deserve to stay buried. But she stepped aside anyway. Inside, the small living room felt too small for everything unsaid. Ryan looked around. The piano, the framed pictures, the signs of a life built from ashes. "It's beautiful," he murmured. "You did all this on your own." "Not on my own," she said, glancing toward the cross above the door. "God carried me when you didn't." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I deserve that." "You deserve a lot more," she replied quietly. "But I'm too tired to hate you, Ryan." Her honesty pierced him deeper than anger ever could. He sat down slowly, hands clasped, voice trembling. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I was weak." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't disappear from your own wedding because of weakness, Ryan. You vanish because of fear and pride." He looked down, ashamed. "They told me I'd never make it if I stayed here. That music needed my full life, and you'd be better off without a man chasing dreams." She shook her head, voice breaking. "You didn't just take dreams, you took safety. You left me to face the whispers, the shame, the nights I couldn't breathe." Her voice cracked. And when I found out I was pregnant, I thought I'd drown in that silence. Ryan covered his face with his hands. Oh God, Jackie. Tears streamed down his cheeks as thunder rolled outside. I missed everything. His first word, his first song, the first time he called you Mama. I'll never forgive myself. Jackie turned away, gripping the window frame. You're not supposed to forgive yourself, you're supposed to change. Her words hung heavy in the air. Ryan rose, his voice low. That's why I came back. I'm not asking for a second chance at love. I'm asking for a chance to be the man God intended me to be. For you, for him, for myself. She turned, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. And for a moment she couldn't speak. The candle flickered between them, light trembling like hope. You talk about God now, she said softly. When did that happen? He smiled faintly. On the road, nights after shows when the crowd disappeared and I was left alone with the noise in my head. I read your note every time I felt lost. It led me home. To him. Jackie's tears fell freely. That note was written out of heartbreak. Maybe, he said, but God turned it into a compass. He stepped closer, hesitant. I know I can't undo what I did, but if you'll let me, I want to start making things right. She shook her head, torn between anger and grace. Some wounds don't heal overnight. Outside, lightning flashed across the fields, illuminating their faces through the window. The storm grew louder, mirroring their hearts. Maybe forgiveness isn't about healing overnight, he said quietly. Maybe it's about staying long enough to prove you won't run again. Jackie's shoulders trembled. Do you even know what you're asking for? It's not just me anymore. It's him, our son. His heart is pure. I can't let him break the way I did. Ryan's voice cracked. Then let me show him what staying looks like. Let me teach him the song I should have sung years ago. For a long moment, only the rain answered. Then Jackie whispered, He doesn't know you're his father. Ryan nodded slowly. I figured, but he deserves to, when you're ready. Her lip quivered. You think I'm the one who needs to be ready? No, he said gently. I think we both do. The candlelight dimmed, flickering with the wind. Ryan turned toward the piano. Do you still play the one we wrote together? She hesitated. Not since you left. He sat down, brushing his fingers against the keys. Can I? She nodded silently. The melody filled the room, soft and broken, like a prayer whispered through regret. Jackie stood behind him, her arms crossed, tears falling quietly. Every note carried memories. Laughter in the barn, the first kiss by the willow tree, the night he promised forever. She closed her eyes, and for the first time, she didn't feel anger in the sound. She felt healing. When the song ended, silence lingered. Ryan turned, eyes glistening. You used to say music was God's way of reminding us we're never truly alone. And you used to say the wrong lyrics could ruin a perfect melody, she replied softly. Guess we both forgot our own songs for a while. They both smiled faintly through tears. Maybe it's time to write a new one, he said. Not for the radio, not for fame. For us. For him. She wiped her face. You can't fix a decade of pain with a single song, Ryan. I know, he said, but maybe we can start with one verse. At that moment, Ben's sleepy voice came from the hallway. Mama? He rubbed his eyes, holding his stuffed bear. Jackie froze. Ryan stood, unsure what to do. It's okay, she whispered, walking to her son. Go back to bed, sweetheart. But Ben looked past her and smiled. Hi, Mr. Cooper. Ryan knelt, smiling softly. Hey, champ. Couldn't sleep? No, Ben said, yawning. I heard music. It sounded like the dream song again. Jackie's breath caught. Ryan looked at her, then back at Ben. You dreamed of that song? Yeah, the boy said. You were singing it. but Mama was crying. Jackie covered her mouth, tears spilling over. Ryan's eyes filled, his voice barely a whisper. Sometimes dreams are God's way of helping us remember what love sounds like. Ben nodded, sleepy but content. Then keep singing, Mr. Cooper. Mama likes it. He turned and walked back to his room, leaving silence behind. Jackie leaned against the wall, sobbing quietly. Ryan approached slowly, stopping a few steps away. Jackie, I know forgiveness isn't a word you give lightly. I broke your heart once, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving I won't do it again. She looked up, voice trembling. And what if I can't forgive you? He took a deep breath. Then I'll still stay. Because forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about grace. And I've seen what grace looks like. Every time I look at you. The storm outside began to fade, the thunder distant now. Jackie turned toward the window, whispering, maybe this is where healing begins. Morning came washed in silver light over Willow Creek. The storm had passed, but its memory lingered like a hymn after the final chord. Ryan woke before sunrise, fingers tracing invisible frets on the bedsheet. A melody pulsed steady, tender, insistent, like breath. He sat up and whispered, Lord, if this is yours, I won't run. The room felt wider, the air clear, the silence kind. Today, the song would find its voice, in public. Across town, Jackie brewed coffee and watched steam curl into the cool air. Ben hummed at the table, tapping a spoon as if it were a drum. Big day? He asked, eyes bright with secrets he didn't know. Maybe, she said, heart steady but softening around the edges. She remembered the piano in the night, the prayer in Ryan's voice. She remembered the word stay, and she wondered if healing could sing. The fall festival's second afternoon gathered like harvest. Booths opened, ribbons fluttered, laughter stitched the square together. Pastor Thomas adjusted the small wooden cross beside the stage. He saw Ryan tuning his guitar and walked over slowly. Big crowds never scared you, the pastor said, half smiling. Only small truths, Ryan replied, eyes honest. Then sing the truth, came the gentle command. Ryan stepped behind the stage, heart drumming like a snare. He took out the folded note, edges worn to softness. If you ever lose your way, let God lead you home. He pressed it to his chest, breathing like a man surfacing. Home, he whispered, tasting the word for the first time. Not fame, not flight. Home was a person and a promise. Jackie stood near the crowd, half hidden by the church booth. She told herself she was there for the kids' recital. She told herself she could leave any time. But her feet knew better than her mind. Faith pulled her forward with quiet hands. Fear tugged back with old chains. Hope stood in the middle and refused to move. Ben spotted Ryan and waved so wildly his sleeve slipped. Look, Mama. The guitar man, he beamed. Jackie's breath caught, then steadied like a metronome. Stay by me, she said softly, squeezing his hand. The boy nodded, eyes fixed on the stage. He didn't know why his chest felt light. He only knew he wanted the song to begin. The MC tapped the mic. The speaker crackled awake. Local son, world-known voice. Welcome home, Ryan Cooper. Applause rose like wheat in the wind, full and gold. Ryan walked out, head bowed, not in shame but reverence. He sat on a stool and let the crowd hush itself. I used to sing to be seen, he said. Today I sing because God sees. One chord rang, low, warm, and honest. The second answered, hope braided into resonance. Ryan closed his eyes and found the melody waiting. He didn't push it. He let it carry him. Not my song, he breathed, yours. Then he began to sing what prayer had written, soft at first like morning. Verse 1 traced the ordinary holiness of Willow Creek. Dirt roads that taught patience, porches that held vows. A church that kept breathing even when hearts forgot how. Hands that folded in kitchens and pulled heaven closer. A girl in white, a door that never opened, a God who stayed. No bitterness, only truth carried like water. And the crowd leaned in without knowing why. Jackie felt the first tears before she saw them. They arrived quietly, not in pain but release. The lyrics didn't accuse. They confessed. They didn't point. They opened. He sang like a man who had stopped hiding. He sang like a boy who finally came home. And her heart dared to unclench. Verse 2 became a map of wandering. Hotels, highways, rooms that smelled like aftershocks. Crowds that shouted his name but didn't know it. Silence that echoed louder than applause. A folded note like a lighthouse in his pocket. How grace kept finding him in backstage shadows. How mercy writes choruses on tired bones. Ben tugged Jackie's sleeve, whispering, "Mama, listen. He's singing our kind of prayer." She knelt to his height and brushed his hair back. "It does sound like ours," she said, voice warm. The boy smiled, eyes reflecting stage lights. "Maybe Jesus taught him," he added simply. Jackie swallowed because the truth felt that simple. The bridge rose like a sunrise over long fields. Ryan's voice found rough edges and turned them into altars. "I left where love had set a table," he sang. "But God kept my seat and warmed my plate. I ran from vows I couldn't keep alone. Now I kneel where I should have stood. And I stay where I once disappeared." A hush fell that sounded like prayer. Somewhere a child stopped crying without reason. Somewhere else a hand found another hand. Pastor Thomas bowed his head, a smile in his amen. Ryan looked over the crowd and didn't search for cameras. He searched for one face under 1,000. And found it, tearlit, unguarded, listening. He didn't say her name. The song already had. But the next words belonged to both of them. "For the one I broke, I bring a mended heart. For the boy I missed, I bring a staying soul. For the God I ignored, I bring the rest of me. Take it, make it music again." The chord hung like a promise kept. A final chorus bloomed, larger than his chest. The crowd began to sing back a melody they'd never heard. As if heaven had mailed it to every mailbox at dawn, Ryan let them hold the refrain while he breathed. He looked at Ben, who was singing louder than anyone. Something inside him answered with a father's yes, and the note didn't break. Silence landed feather-light after the last ring. No rush to clap, only a shared sacred pause. Then applause rose, not thunderous but grateful. People stood, some with hands over hearts, some praying. Ryan didn't bow. He exhaled. He set the guitar down like laying a burden at the altar, and stepped off the stage into the day. Jackie didn't move at first. Her feet were roots, but Ben pulled her gently like a tide coming in. They met him near the side steps where shade cooled the heat. Up close, the song still clung to his shoulders like light. No one spoke for a breath that lasted years. Then Jackie's voice arrived, steady as a bell. "That wasn't the boy I remember." Ryan nodded, eyes clear, no defense on his tongue. "I'm not," he said. "I finally stopped trying to be." He looked at Ben and then at her, slower this time. "The song is yours as much as mine. It's God's, if we're honest." Jackie felt her guard loosen one quiet notch. "Honest," she echoed, testing the word. The crowd thinned. The square kept its gentle hum. Pastor Thomas approached, placing a hand on Ryan's shoulder. "To the church, then?" he asked softly. Ryan met Jackie's gaze, waiting instead of pushing. She inhaled, exhaled, and nodded once. "Let's go," she said, a door unlocking. And somewhere above them a bell rang like grace. The church bells rang softly that Sunday morning, their echo spreading through Willow Creek like a call from heaven itself. The town was still buzzing from the festival, but today felt different, quieter, expectant. Jackie stood before the mirror, fastening a simple blue dress, her heart steady for the first time in years. This wasn't about appearances anymore. It was about peace. Ben bounced on the bed, excited. "Mama, are we singing today?" She smiled. "Yes, sweetheart. We all are," he grinned. "Even Mr. Cooper?" Her eyes softened. "Especially him." For the first time, she said his name without pain. Just truth. The kind of truth God writes into stories that needed both breaking and healing. Across town, Ryan buttoned his white shirt, hands trembling. The festival crowd had left, but something holy had stayed behind. He stood before the mirror, whispering, "Thank you for bringing me back, even when I didn't deserve it." The reflection staring back wasn't the country star the world knew. It was the man Grace had rebuilt. When he stepped outside, the morning light was warm, golden, alive. He carried his guitar, not as a weapon for fame, but as an offering. Every step toward the church felt like walking into forgiveness itself. For the first time, he didn't feel like an outsider returning. He felt like a son coming home inside. The small congregation gathered slowly. Familiar faces, familiar smiles. Pastor Thomas stood at the pulpit, his eyes full of quiet pride. "Sometimes," he said gently, "God brings us full circle, not to shame us, but to show that his mercy never missed a beat." Jackie sat with Ben, her hand resting on his shoulder. Ryan took his seat at the front, his guitar leaning against the pew. Their eyes met across the room, not as strangers, not as what they once were, but as two souls who had finally stopped running. Jackie smiled faintly, and in that single look, forgiveness began its slow, beautiful bloom. The service began with hymns, soft voices filling the room. When the pastor invited anyone to share a testimony, Ryan stood. The congregation turned, murmuring. He walked to the front, his steps calm. "I've sung on stages around the world," he said, "but I've never felt smaller or more grateful than I do standing here." He paused, glancing at Jackie and Ben. "I left this place once chasing something that couldn't fill me. I broke promises. I hurt people I loved, but God doesn't waste brokenness. He rebuilds it into purpose." His voice wavered, emotion cracking through. "If you've ever run too far, just know grace runs faster." The church fell silent. The only sound was the rustle of pages and sniffles of hearts softening. Jackie felt her chest tighten, not from pain, but from the strange weight of release. She whispered, "Thank you, Lord," as Ryan strummed the first notes of a song he'd written that very morning, "Home Again." The lyrics spoke of doors left open, of light that never went out, of a love that waited without bitterness. "You stayed," he sang softly, "when I couldn't stay. You prayed when I couldn't pray. And now every step I take is because you brought me home." His eyes never left hers. Jackie stood slowly, her hands trembling. The congregation watched as she walked toward the altar. Ben followed, clutching her hand. Ryan's voice faltered for a moment, overwhelmed. Jackie stopped beside him, smiling through tears. "That's our song now," she whispered. The crowd exhaled like a prayer answered. Pastor Thomas stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "What you see here isn't romance," he said. "It's redemption. This is what happens when love surrenders to God's timing." He turned to Ryan. "You ran away from the altar once, son, but today, you finally made it back." Ryan looked up, voice trembling. "Not for a wedding," he said softly, "but for worship." He kneeled at the altar, his guitar beside him. Jackie joined him, her hand finding his. Ben knelt too, his small fingers resting on theirs. The three of them bowed together, one heart, one prayer, one home. Outside, sunlight poured through the stained glass, coloring the church in gold and rose. It felt like heaven had leaned close to watch. Ryan whispered, "Lord, thank you for the years you allowed me to be lost, because now I understand what it means to be found." Jackie's tears fell freely, her soul lighter than ever before. After the service, people surrounded them with smiles and embraces. "Welcome home," someone said. Another whispered, "We prayed for this." Jackie laughed softly. Ryan shook his head. "Guess those prayers caught up to me." "That's what prayer does," Pastor Thomas said. "It follows you until you finally stop running." Later that evening, they gathered on the porch of Jackie's farmhouse. The sunset painted the horizon in amber light. Ben sat between them, strumming the small guitar Ryan had given him. "Play that song again," Jackie said. "The one you wrote together?" Ryan smiled. "You mean the one God wrote through us?" Ben's small fingers plucked uncertain notes that somehow sounded perfect. Jackie leaned her head on Ryan's shoulder, gently, cautiously, but willingly. He didn't move, afraid the moment might disappear if he breathed too loudly. "You know," she whispered, "you were right. Forgiveness really is a song." Ryan looked at her, his voice low. "And you were right too. God really does make all things new." They sat in silence, listening to the wind move through the wheat fields, carrying music and memory into the open sky. Everything broken had found rhythm again. Everything lost had been rewritten. As twilight deepened, Jackie turned to him. "What happens now?" He smiled, eyes glistening. "Now we don't rush it. We let God write the rest. One day, one verse at a time." She nodded, feeling peace settle in her chest like the first note of a hymn. "Then let's stay in his rhythm," she said. The final light of day slipped behind the hills. The farmhouse glowed softly, laughter and music spilling through the windows. The camera of heaven pulled back on the scene, 3 figures framed in grace. A voice echoed over the wind. "When you let God lead, he always brings you home." And somewhere far above the wheat fields, an unseen choir whispered, "Amen." Sometimes what feels like the end is just the beginning of what God planned all along. If this story touched your heart, share it, leave your prayer below, and remember, when you let God lead, he always brings you home.